Watch this.
Idaho's first ever Olympic boxer has punched her ticket to the next round of the tournament. An emotional win felt just as strongly from 5,000 miles away. Think you can run like an Olympian? Well, one woman from Twin Falls is going to give it a try. A regular selected to run the same route as the elites in Paris. They say it's unconstitutional, a vague law that left them vulnerable to litigation. But a few of them have decided to turn the tables and taken Idaho's library law to court. One of their lawyers explains why they're doing it now. And that was the moment family and friends of Caldwell's Alyssa Mendoza saw the judge raise her hand, giving her the dramatic first-round win at the Paris Olympics. Team USA's youngest boxer took the split decision, 3-2, after a tightly contested 3 rounds. Southpaw won her debut fight Tuesday and now advances to the round of 16. Alyssa impressed the network announcers early on with her poise and pressure, and apparently enough of the judges as she took the first round, but then she lost the second. So it came down to the third. Trailing, the 20-year-old finished strong enough to win. The excitement Alyssa felt and showed after her 9 minutes in the ring paralleled the emotion felt in the watch party in Caldwell's Indian Creek. Here's Abby Wilt.
Starting the fight.
That was amazing, honestly, right?
Towards winning gold.
Still feel the nerves, the jitters, all that from the emotion from her winning.
Alyssa Mendoza took to the ring Tuesday morning to throw her first punches of the Olympic Games.
She just proved it today that she's where she's meant to be.
Winning 3-2.
It's unreal just to watch her.
She is Team USA's youngest and Idaho's first boxer to compete on the world stage.
We don't hear the Idaho, we don't hear the Caldwell being called out, so to have that being called out on the national stage, worldwide, in Paris, man, it's really, really awesome.
And her community is ringing with excitement.
We are so proud to be from Idaho, and so to be able to be recognized on a national, international spotlight is so important for us here in this state.
The pure excitement just from everybody is very heartwarming, almost like they care for her.
As they watch,
it was exciting from beginning to finish.
And cheer.
Whatever the time of day, we will have a party going on somewhere to support her and show her how much, we love her and appreciate all she's doing for our community.
Supporting Idaho's first athlete to box in the Games.
The community coming together for something so amazing, like that is what the Olympics is about, is cheering on her accomplishment to get there.
And Alyssa's family says now they're going to enjoy today's win, then get some rest, then get excited again for Alyssa's next fight. And that will be Friday at 8:18 a.m. Mountain Time. She'll be facing a boxer from Brazil. And if she wins, she will advance to the quarterfinals on Sunday. And so if she wins the quarterfinals, then she will go to the semifinals and then the finals. So we could see her 4 more times.
That'd be amazing. I mean, the crowd there was pretty impressive.
The crowd was very impressive. They were excited. We're excited. It's an exciting time for Idaho, for sure.
It was fun listening to the announcers of that fight talk about her and her dad and his story, how to get here. It's a story Jay Tust has for you, but it's a cool thing. She kind of won some over some fans overseas as well, which is kind of fun to see.
Definitely did. Yes.
All right.
We'll be cheering her on here at KTVB.
Stay tuned for Friday. Thanks, Abby.
I don't necessarily like this analogy, but we are more of the liquor store. You don't get to come in here without your parents.
Great. You don't like it? You do not have to read it. I promise. This is not assigned reading in your high school.
I feel like there are a lot of people who come into a library who might want to learn about something that they don't feel comfortable talking to a librarian and asking for.
My hope is that it's fought. I hate to say that I hope that Meridian or Boise or Coeur d'Alene carries the burden for us. But I hope the first $250 fine is one of the big libraries.
Well, there haven't been any $250 fines issued so far that we know of, but the burden of fighting Idaho's new library law is being carried by a few private schools, public libraries, parents, and churches from Boise and Sun Valley. A lawsuit with 11 plaintiffs has been filed in federal court against the state attorney general and the Ada and Blaine County prosecutors over Idaho's recently enacted Children's School and Library Protection Act. The law, in simplest terms, if someone finds a book in the children's section of a library, a book they consider obscene or harmful to children, they can file a complaint. The library then has 60 days to move it to an adult section, remove it entirely from the library, or face a fine of $250. The lawsuit alleges the new law is vague and also unconstitutional, and they want it to stop being enforced. This is something we've heard before, this unconstitutional and vague part, and it's led to a lot of different interpretations on how to handle it, as you just heard. For example, the Boise School District and Meridian Community Library, they have both decided to limit who can challenge a book on their shelves. Riggin schools, they put a parental policy in place where a child can either have all access, limited access, or no access to their 3 categories of middle school, nonfiction, and young adult materials. Other libraries, like in Idaho Falls, or as you just heard, in Donnelly's one-room library, they've opted to restrict where in the library kids are allowed to go without an adult, if at all. So here we are. Per the wishes of Donnelly's librarian, Sherry Shalene, the fight for all libraries has been taken to court. Joe Paris sat down with one of their lawyers.
A collection of complaints has Idaho's new library content law set for legal review. Labeled in a new lawsuit as an unprecedented attempt by the government to control speech and ideas in private institutions, plaintiffs want the new law thrown out on constitutional grounds.
We were looking at this law well before the governor signed it and have been kind of tracking it as it made its way through the legislature.
McKay Cunningham is on the legal roster for the group looking to get the law previously known as House Bill 710 taken off the books. Public schools and libraries have expressed concerns. This group, though, does include private schools, private libraries, and a church, just to name a few.
The definition that the legislature included for what is harmful to minors is incredibly broad. It's very vague.
From the perspective of the plaintiffs, they see clear constitutional and practical problems.
The point of the lawsuit is to ensure that materials that are scientifically, culturally, socially important, and that have historically enjoyed First Amendment protection continue to enjoy that protection in the state of Idaho. I should be clear that every single one of my clients, every single one of the plaintiffs in this lawsuit, they agree that minors should be shielded from obscene and pornographic materials. That's not the issue. The issue is that HB 710 goes way, way beyond that.
Libraries, like this public one in Donnelly, cite ambiguous language in the law as a concern. Donnelly, who's not a part of this lawsuit, avoided potential problems by simply rebranding themselves as an adult-only library.
Works of art that society has long deemed valuable, whether it's Michelangelo's David or an impressionist painting that maybe has a partially nude rendering of a human being, are all included, arguably, within this very broad definition of what is harmful to minors. And it may be that there is a challenge to Michelangelo's David, and it goes through the court system, and the court says, okay, this falls outside of the definition of harmful to minors. But all of that is still a harm to public libraries and private libraries and schools across Idaho, because you've got to be ready to defend.
The lawsuit also looks at inconsistency, or picking and choosing, in the law in terms of what is obscene or what is harmful material. For example, any act of homosexuality can be seen as obscene.
Why is it that the Idaho legislature singled out a discrete and insular minority for a detrimental effect, but didn't do so for heterosexual activity? And the second part to that is that defining sexual conduct to include an act of homosexuality would include something as innocuous as same-sex people holding hands.
The Idaho Family Policy Center, who helped draft the law, responded to the news of a lawsuit, writing in a statement, quote, "The schools, churches, and parents who file the legal challenge today should be embarrassed." They go on to say, quote, "Most of the claims are baseless and easily refuted. As the United States Supreme Court has repeatedly recognized, states have a compelling interest in protecting children from school and library materials that are obscene. Children should never have unfettered access to pornographic materials in taxpayer-funded schools and libraries, but the law does go beyond publicly funded institutions. And that part of the law makes Idaho unique in this realm, as other states pass similar laws."
Idaho's is the only one that also reaches into private schools, that reaches into private libraries, and that is a step even deeper into First Amendment jurisprudence that we don't see anywhere else except for Idaho.
So you may be wondering, well, what is a private library? I've never heard of a library where you go get a special membership. What we mean by a private library is a library that books and its content are privately funded, but Brian, it would be available to the public, like the Collister Church.
The Collister Church was an interesting story because they're trying to be more open to the LGBTQ community, and a lot of these books that were brought forth during the passage of this bill, that were brought up in committee hearings and on the House and Senate floors, have to do with LGBTQ themes.
And as we heard from the attorney McKay Cunningham, if you had a book where you had same-sex parents holding hands, that could be challenged and under Idaho law removed or put into an adult-only section. If you had heterosexual parents that were holding hands, that's fine. So there's some inconsistency there in terms of the law. In terms of what they're looking for in the long run, by the way, they want the entire law thrown out on constitutional grounds. In the meantime, more in the short-term phrase, they want to have some type of a pause before the school year starts in the fall, an injunction. This could get very complicated for schools across Idaho. As we've heard, some have decided to take drastic steps, not because of the $250 fines. That's certainly a challenge.
The damages on top of that.
Yes, they could put a library out of business.
All right. Thank you very much, Joe. A couple weeks until school starts, so we'll see what happens. The attorneys representing the victims in the deadly hangar collapse, the Boise airport, spoke out today following the release of OSHA's review of the incident. And police in Nampa, well, they're looking for a man who plays or played a Power Ranger on TV. Here's Jude Binkley with the 411.
We're hearing from the attorney representing the families of two men killed in the hangar collapse at the Boise airport. It comes just one day after the Occupational Safety and Health Administration released its scathing review of the collapse.
They were sad to know that the deaths of their loved ones could have been prevented if companies followed the rules. However, they were very happy and applauded the efforts of OSHA's office for doing such an in-depth investigation and wanting to hold those responsible accountable.
OSHA's proposing almost $200,000 in penalties. The Nampa Police Department is looking for a man after video surfaced showing him shove a man in his early 60s after an argument over parking. Nampa police identified the suspect as 35-year-old Hector David Rivera of Nampa. Rivera goes by the stage name Hector David Jr. and is famous for playing the Green Power Ranger. Nampa PD have not been able to find Rivera, who is now facing a misdemeanor battery charge. Evacuations are in place for the Lime Point fire burning along the Snake River near the Idaho-Oregon border. The areas around Bear and Cuprum are under a Level 3 evacuation order, meaning go now. The fire has burned around 4,500 acres and many different structures are threatened. The Forest Service says the fire was started by lightning and none of it is contained. firefighters continue to make progress on the Durkee fire burning in eastern Oregon. The fire has burned more than 293,000 acres and is now 51% contained. That's up from 49% yesterday. Crews are also making progress on the Badlands Complex fire burning across the highway from the Durkee fire. It's burned more than 54,000 acres and is 49% contained. That's an increase from 40% yesterday. Here in Idaho, the Bench Lake fire has burned more than 2,500 acres and it's now 85% contained. The Forest Service says this fire was started by humans. Redfish Lake Lodge reopened today. And that's the 411 on the 208. I'm Jude Binkley.
Well, you're taking a look here at, of course, our fairly pleasant skies. You can see some smoke out there, but I'm happy just to see from this distance. For the past several days, we couldn't see the foothills. Now you can. So we've had a little change in the weather here recently from this morning. I hope you enjoyed those light showers. 85 degrees for today's high. 95 is the normal, 106 happens to be the record. Now you're looking at the smoke futurecast, and we did get a little break today. Okay, there was just a little break, and probably it'll continue through tomorrow. We had some of those westerly winds, so if you look at this, we're in the moderate air quality right now, and we're kind of in the lower to middle of the moderate air quality. So that has improved because of the light showers and some of those upper air winds we had this morning. So today's temperatures dropped off Too bad we couldn't have that every morning, huh? 85 degrees for Boise. Twin Falls was 78 degrees. As you see these lines right through here, you're noticing the pattern. And it's cutting off the California smoke just for now, okay? And the storm system's pushing to the east. So tomorrow is not bad, but it's going to start increasing with some of the smoke. Like I said yesterday, it's going to be short-lived. And then after that, we're going to be back to the heat, more smoke in the valley, especially on Thursday. And as we continue through the weekend and also into the first part of next week.
All right, so how many times have you thought or even said out loud while watching the Olympic Games, I think I could do that? Probably not the pommel horse or even riding a dressage horse, but there are a few events you probably think you could just try just to see how you compare to an Olympic athlete. How about, ping pong, skeet shooting here in Idaho especially, trampoline? What about one of the most basic of athletic endeavors, like running? Well, this year, for the first time, the Olympics is holding a run for non-Olympians between Olympic races. It's a chance for, well, somewhat normal people from all over the world, a chance for them to step onto the world stage and showcase their stride. And a Twin Falls woman has been selected. Before she jumps on a plane to Paris, Hunter Funk was able to chase her down on Boise's Greenbelt.
It's the rhythm of a runner. Deep breaths and big strides. For Kate D'Angelo, that rhythm has quite the track record.
I have been running for 7.5 years now, running half marathons all around the USA, including 2 international half marathons in London and Aruba.
Finding cool destinations to run 10Ks and half marathons are what keep her running the distance.
It's been a little bit of everything, usually somewhere with a nice warm beach.
D'Angelo was born and raised in Boise. She now lives in Twin Falls, and while the views are a lot different from her home base,
less smoky for sure,
it gives her the endurance to push towards the next big race. 8 months ago,
I actually found out last November that I got my bib.
D'Angelo learned she's been selected to run in Paris.
I think over 400,000 people applied to try and get a bib, and only about 10% of the people who applied actually got one. So I'm feeling very lucky and very honored and privileged to be able to do this race because it's never been done before at an Olympics.
She will run with 20,024 runners for the 10K. An additional 20,024 runners will run a full marathon.
So I will get to run the streets of Paris in the middle of the night, which I am very much looking forward to. It's going to be so much fun.
In a week, she'll make the trip. Then August 10th, between the men's and women's Olympic marathons, she'll get to run the same track.
It's incredible because I watched the opening ceremony and it's really cool to think about, seeing all that stuff on TV. I actually get to go there in person and see it.
Luckily, it's called the City of Lights because those lights will be needed as the race starts at 11:30 p.m.
It's going to be a long night for me, but it will be so much fun and I'm sure I'll be pumped up and ready to go.
Kate says she's ready to run and enjoy all that Paris has to offer, with her mom rooting for her on the sidelines. Whether it's Parisian streets or local trails, she says running is important, and each step is a victory lap for her health.
I encourage everyone to get out in nature and enjoy getting those steps in, no matter what.
It helps when the view is really pretty too, huh?
This is also very true.
Well, she will get a medal after, not the same as what Olympians get, but it has the iconic rings displayed on it. And of course, we're going to have that follow up with her after the race too.
Does somebody, I assume she has to train for this?
Yes.
You don't just run out there cold.
Yeah,
you wouldn't want to.
No, I wouldn't at all. She's been training for this for quite some time. Again, doing it for 7.5 years. She did have a setback though. In December, she donated bone marrow and stem cells to a child with leukemia. So she says it was a long recovery process, not being able to lift 5 pounds after surgery, but just most recently, last week, she was sled pressing 340. So
wow.
Positive news there.
That's a setback, but what a way to do that. That's amazing. So
she says
good for her. We're going to root her on and see how she does. We'll wait for that update when it comes in. Thank you, Hunter. All right, taking a look at the medal count today. United States, well, we're still top of the board with 26 total medals. France is in second place. That'd be the host country. They have 18. We're still kind of trailing when it comes to golds, though, but we're really bumping it up in silver and bronze. China, they're in third with 14. Japan bringing up fourth with 13. And then you can see Great Britain there at fifth. They have 12 medals total. All right, final minute of the show here on this Tuesday, and Jackie wants to know, did the library law apply to school libraries? Yes, it's called the Children's School and Library Protection Act. So yes, it applies to school libraries. Glad to see libraries fighting back. It's the First Amendment for a reason, says Dale. Meanwhile, this one from B&B. Legislators made the library law vague on purpose. Instead of leaving it up to librarians, maybe the parents that are so worried should accompany their child rather than this nonsense. The library was a refuge when we were kids growing up. I guess people have forgotten that. Thank you for continuing to fight to save our libraries and our freedom to access reading material. It's freedom. Parents need to be responsible for what their children are reading, says PJ in Ada County. Librarians are not to blame. Allow free access to information. That is America. Didn't Boise and Jerry Armstrong box in the Olympics on the same team with Cassius Clay, asked Marty. So we talked about Alyssa Mendoza being Idaho's first. I think you're right, Marty. That is true. Jerry Armstrong was an Idaho State student when he boxed on the Olympic team in 1960 for bantamweight. He took 5th place. We may have to look into that a little bit further, but I think you're correct, Marty. Thanks for letting us know.